Well, cool. Well, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to kind of peeling back all the layers of who you are in your life, and I want to begin with it with going through a pandemic. The last 3.5 years was quite a ride. How did you survive the pandemic, and how has it changed you now that we've kind of come out of it?
Oh, we're just gonna jump right into it,
I come from jazz radio. Yeah, I just if that's okay with you, it's like once the hi-hats hit, I go right in.
Oh, I love that. I love that. The pandemic and how have I been through the pandemic? How did I survive through it? Um, Let me see. I mean, a lot of people had some kind of transformation. I think like everyone had to slow down and have some kind of reflection happen because we were no longer distracted with going through our jobs and meeting people and doing things that we just felt like we had to fill our schedule with. And so I was one of those people certainly who benefited, I think, of people lost and people benefited from the pandemic and being alone, spending time with myself. But so I didn't have to commute anymore, and I realized that I was really, really lonely. I noticed that I was lonely before, but I was just really distracted. I thought, well, because I do this, I put time in this, I need to go here, be here at somewhere to be, and some people to talk to, but not people that really, really know me. And so one of the things I discovered during the pandemic is that it's okay to spend some time by yourself. In fact, it was really important for me to do that. I ended up quitting my job, like many people, and going on to start my coaching business. But I survived the pandemic because I I really believe it was a time for me to just know what I wanted to keep in my life and examine those things that could possibly go. And so I let a lot of things go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
Mm.
that was the silver lining of all of it.
Mm.
So let's put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day, and one of the kids looks up and asks you, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I say I help people make friends. That's
So that makes total sense. So
Mhm.
let me ask you this. Where were you born and raised, and how did these seeds get into you to become a coach and to be in that position to help people?
Oh yeah, I was born in a small town in Ohio and I just didn't fit in. I was just struggling really hard to try and connect with people and I watched how everybody else had friendships and they were going off with their groups and keying it up like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna invite you to a sleepover," but I couldn't go and I didn't know how to make friendships and I noticed that people in my family didn't really know how to do that either, but I'd heard somewhere along the lines of, well, you need to just find your tribe. Not everybody's gonna like you, just go find your tribe. And so I decided when I was 18, I was going to move away. I went to college. And from then, I continued to move around searching for my tribe because I couldn't quite find them in the college. I couldn't quite find them in this city or that city as I bounced around. Then I finally left Ohio for California, thinking that, well, it's just the state of Ohio. If I go to California, I'm going to find different people who understand and appreciate me. And that didn't happen either. I ended up moving around in California a little bit then finally to Chicago, where I am, and I end up moving around in the city just a little bit. And so I realized that, wow, it is really me. It's me who is not really making those meaningful connections. No matter where I go, there I am. And so that really got instilled in me. I was still looking for those connections. So I went to therapy. I learned more about my feelings and that other people had feelings. And the way to really connect with people is to open up and talk about those things that you're afraid to talk about, but people are afraid to talk. I was afraid, people were afraid to talk. So what really helped me push me towards this coaching was certainly definitely before the pandemic. I knew that I wanted to support people because I had a specific instance where I went out to a bar and I was like, I'm going to be positive, I'm going to make friends, and I'm going to have a conversation with at least one person. And I did. I had a nice conversation, 20 minutes, and I thought, well, I got to be open and vulnerable and talk about who I am. And they didn't like that at all. They were just really upset about that and they left me mid-sentence essentially like right after I finished speaking they're like gone, but I know that people want vulnerability, they just don't know how to handle it and they don't know how to give it. And so that was one of those pivotal moments of like, oh yeah, yeah, you also wanted connection because we were talking about having that way before the pandemic and now you can't handle it. So I help people make that vulnerability piece reality for them.
So talk to me a little bit about who's the hero, who's been an inspiration for you in your life.
'An inspiration. Uh, There was this woman who, when I was a kid, uh, it's like one of my best friend's mom, and she she was just really kind and attentive. It just seemed like my parents had things going on, and they weren't really interested in me as a person. For whatever is happening in their lives. They weren't really interested in me as a person. But this woman, she listened to some of the goofy stuff that I said as a teenager and hung out with her kid, and we just had a lot of laughs, and it was a good time. You know, sometimes I would spend more time than I probably should have over there. But talking to her, I think she was an inspiration to me. There's nobody that's really big and huge that has influenced my life as much as she has, because she's had a direct effect on it.
So let's open the door up here a little bit. If you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, someone that you really admire, who would it be?
If I could meet anyone in the world, somebody that I admire, I I'd be curious to know about. I I'm having really a lot of difficulty trying to think about who that person is, because there it would probably be a monk or something along those lines.
Sure.
Because that a non not I forget his name, but he I think he passed last year. Um, but I'd want to be able to talk to somebody who has more insight about themselves and this really beautiful ability to look within and to be more calm and understand more about how they move through the world, how they're really impacting people. So I can't think of someone right at the top of my head now, but probably someone along those lines.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what's your motivation every day? What is the motivator for you to coach and to help others get to a better place in their life? What gets you out of bed and motivates you to do that?
Oh, yeah, definitely, because I want to make sure that people don't feel as alone as I did. So the whole thing I do is social connections coaching. I help people make those meaningful connections, open up having those conversations without being afraid to talk about what's real and true. So that's gonna there's going to be rejection when we start talking about those things, because not everybody likes what we like. Not only likes the thing that I like or cares or interested or can't even understand. And so we're like, oh, I'm so disappointed that you don't care about astrophysics. And so we're just like all sulking. It must be me talking about it all the time. But I want people to understand more so that it is not you. It's just that you haven't found the right person yet. And when I was stuck in this mindset where just nobody's ever going to understand me. Nobody appreciates or loves or just cares about me. And I had this overwhelming sense of loneliness. And so many people do. I'm thinking it's the entire world, but I haven't met everybody yet. I haven't met everybody. I don't think it's possible for to meet 8 billion people, but it's getting the idea that I get up in the morning because I want to help other people know there is somebody out there who understands and appreciates and can connect with, and you can find that person. So I want to change people's mindsets to help them understand that. That's why I get up. Don't be lonely like I was.
So what's been one of your best success stories as a coach?
Success story is when I was working with someone who was younger than I thought, because I'm 40. So this person was half my age. And I was like, I really like to work with people who have a little more life experience so that they can reflect. The name of my company is called Patterns of Possibility. And so we just look at the patterns from the past and we reflect on them. But this person was very insightful, and they picked up all the information that I was able to share. Like, look at some of these patterns. Look at how you want to be treated in situations, even with your friends. Pay attention to what's going on. And I'm able to reflect that to them. And one of the biggest things that they said is that because, one of the things that happen with us being lonely is we get desperate and we hang on to people that probably should let go of. We probably should let go of those people. She's having these people around that, well, it's okay to have them around, but how do you feel about being with them? And she really, really understood that, yeah, it's really not comfortable. It's a waste of time for me to be with these people. Great, great. Let go of those people. Now, this is the space in which people get really scared because there's nobody around, not the people that they're used to treating them poorly and hanging out with. Nobody. You're there by yourself doing that self-reflection. So the next piece is, well, what do you want your new friendships to look like? So helping them create those kind of friendships. So the success is that she realized that she didn't have to spend time with people that she didn't want to spend time with. That's the whole thing. You don't have to be there just because no one else is around. You want something else, go get it, and you can.
So you're in the business of giving good advice to people. What's been the best advice you've gotten in your life?
The best advice I've gotten in my life is to just listen to other people. It's like listen more. Although, I'm in the coaching conversations and I talk about what I observe about their behaviors and their actions, a lot of the time I'm talking right back to myself. And I realize that. And I also realize that other people who want to share maybe their experience with me, and it might not feel good or savory. I need to pay attention to that because I don't notice how I'm moving around in the world. I need someone to really help and support me to do that. So the best advice is just to listen to other people. Just consider what they're saying.
Yeah. So of all of the things that you've done and overcome and become in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I'm the proudest of, I think, starting this coaching business. It has to be the biggest thing. I left my job pretty unceremoniously at the end of 2021. I went into a really dark place where I was just overwhelmed with the fact that I was so lonely and that no one really seemed to care about me. So if you could just imagine that, you can imagine me with some kind of psychic power holding up all of these little orbs and ideas, experiences, people, obligations in my life, and then everything just went all black and everything dropped to the ground. That's essentially how it felt. And I let go of my job. I stopped answering my phone. I stopped doing everything related to people. And I'm like, wow, I don't know. I felt so much anxiety and overwhelm. And then after a few months, I started to start picking back up some of those things that I had dropped because they're just there on the floor, I imagine. They're still in my orbit, but I left my company. I quit um like answering the phone. As I said, I was a part of the other organization that did for fun outside of work. And I just stopped talking to everybody. And then I started to re-examine. But one of the biggest things m- that made room for is the fact that the coaching business was aside. I was working at a corporate job and I was doing the coaching business. So the biggest realization was that I wasn't paying attention to the big coaching thing, the loneliness piece that I really wanted to have. So I didn't have a plan or anything like that. I just quit. And so that's why I feel like that is the most beautiful thing. I'm really proud of being able to do that and make it this far.
Yeah, that's a big
Mm,
deal.
yeah.
So let's say you have a dream tonight and you run into the version of you that's a senior in high school, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've seen, the wisdom you've gained so far. What advice would you dispense on your young version?
Oh, yeah. The young version of myself, I would really ask them to get in touch with their feelings a little more, a lot more. Just spend time with yourself and understand that because, so many people will say, you all have a reason. There's a reason for everything that you do. I don't want to change anything about my past because I can't imagine being this person I am today, experiencing that overwhelm of loneliness all the time, over and over again. I don't want to change that about that person, but I would like that person who's my past self to be more self-reflective, maybe to learn faster from the mistakes that they've made because they're self-reflective. I was a notorious people pleaser and I would do anything to be accepted and appreciated. And if I were in touch with my feelings and realized that these people weren't treating me well or I'm not getting what I need out of that, I probably wouldn't have done as much people pleasing. I probably would have been in a different place.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see any event in human history with your own eyes, where would you go? What would you love to have seen happen unfold before your eyes?
Oh, wow, that's a really great question. And thinking, what is it that I would like to see? Uh, the first thing that pops into my mind is like something in Japan. It's just
Yeah.
I love Japanese culture and it's because of the Pokemon came over when I was like in sixth grade, and I
Yep.
started to get really excited about that. And then I went to college and I learned some Japanese and hung out with some Japanese people, and I still study a bit of Japanese today. So I'd like to see, I know that um there are a lot of temples there. I'd like to be able to see, how those temples are built, especially in old Japan, Kyoto, where they have gold and stuff, because I am a anomaly, in Japan. Like they're so homogenous. And I go in there, no matter what part of history I am in, that they're like, wow, you are a black person here. How? What are you doing? So I would get to see all the secrets and stuff that they've kind of kept other people out of the country for. Yeah.
You, it's interesting you mentioned that aspect because as a jazz radio host, I've always wondered the Japanese revere jazz like it's like a god. It's a
Wow.
deity. Oh, yeah. They have listening bars. And whenever musicians come, they all get vinyl and like are old school and have Sharpies and get it signed. And they absolutely adore jazz musicians. And a lot of the jazz musicians early on were black. And I've always wondered, why do you guys love it? And I've gotten several different answers like they don't have a deity like we do, like we have Christianity in America or some kind of that level of religion. Their religion are things that are like music and whatnot. So they really hold it up in high regard. But yeah, they love jazz. And I would imagine a lot of those after the war and they were kind of setting up that sound. I would imagine that was probably one of the beginnings that fueled it, but it's fascinating. And
Yeah.
I love the whole idea of the Japanese. I love sushi. I obviously love jazz. I think I would just absolutely fall in love with being over there in Japan. So it would be fun. Um,
Absolutely.
so at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everybody. But you ultimately run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, who do I think I am? I think I'm a very um accepting, curious kind of person who wants to hold space for a lot of people. I want people to come to me and be able to share those things that always scared me, that keeps people from being open and honest and authentic. I think that I'm also one of those people who's a bit difficult to understand and appreciate because I'm really, really looking for certain behaviors in my friends. I know how I want to feel in some spaces with people. And it seems like the people that I run into or have run into as of late are like, that's kind of weird, or you want too much. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I know. So maybe a little bit of bougie on top of that being understanding.
So if anyone wants to hire you, reach out to you, learn more about you, where's the best place to do that?
Well, you can find me at patternsofpossibility.com. I have all my stuff there. I have events, coaching, speed friending. I help people with entrepreneurship as well.
Right on. Coach Lee, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your story. Have a great holiday season. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Joe.
And before you